Hi everyone, my name is Megan Thresher and I'm an Insight Manager at Lumina Intelligence. Today I'm going to be looking at how the coffee habits of consumers have changed over the past 12 months using data from our eating and drinking out panel and also our menu tracker tool as well. So I'm really going to lift the lid on the coffee consumer and how operator menus have changed as a result. So in terms of what we're going to be covering today, we'll start by looking at who is the coffee consumer. We'll then go on to look at how coffee consumer behaviour has changed, and then finally look at how coffee shop menus are evolving. So starting off with who the coffee consumer is and who they're most likely to be. So looking at the age percentage share of coffee occasions. So consumers aged 65 plus hold the largest share of the coffee market, and they've increased their share year on year. And we've also seen an increase in penetration amongst this age group. So it means that there's more consumers in the market and they're returning due to less COVID concerns. So 35 to 44s have also increased their share and penetration, and that's another important group for operators to be targeting. But we have seen 18 to 34s hold the lowest share of the market. So they've actually lost share year on year. So these age groups have less disposable income, they're more financially impacted by things like the cost of living crisis, so they're more likely to cut back on the non-necessity purchases such as coffee. And thinking about how the behaviour of consumers buying coffee has changed year on year. So the improvements that we've seen in consumer confidence over the last few months, as well as less train strikes and those fewer COVID concerns, has really prompted an increase in the number of consumers in the coffee market. But the persistence of the cost of living crisis and those continued financial pressures amongst some consumer groups means that we've seen the frequency remain flat and is the same as last year at 1.2 occasions a week. So operators are still having to work really hard to compete for those 1 to 2 weekly occasions that consumers are having. And looking at why consumers are buying coffee. So here we can see the top 3 missions for coffee consumers. So out and about remains the top driver, but this has lost share year on year as consumers are turning to treat missions and they return to their routines instead. So routine missions have gained 1 percentage point share year on year, with coffee purchases becoming part of routines again due to that higher confidence, but also consumers buying coffee on the way to work or meeting friends to socialise. So treat missions are the second biggest driver and they've also grown year on year. So consumers are returning to these small, affordable luxuries and they're more likely to be looking for higher quality premium coffee for this to really justify that out-of-home experience. And we're seeing coffee shop operators really respond to this demand by introducing more affordable and indulgent food and drink items. So Cafe Nero's luxury hot drink selection really taps into that demand for that kind of more premium and indulgent drinks range. Crosstown have introduced their chocolate truffle donut, and Starbucks have also recently introduced their double chocolatey chip frappuccino. So all operators are really tapping into those demands for indulgence. But it's not just traditional treat items that we're seeing appear in the market. Now, a trend that's gained a lot of traction, especially on TikTok, is coffee in a cone. So Fenster Cafe in Vienna has gone viral on TikTok, and it's really famous for its coffee in a cone. And it's a really unique and fun way to serve coffee in a slightly different way. So the operator is really providing that indulgent treat with a twist that consumers are looking for. So they're providing something that's different and slightly more experiential as well. And this return to routine occasions that we have spoke about in the market means that we're also seeing growth in occasions in high streets and city centres. But this is at the expense of those retail and industrial parks. So consumers are returning to their pre-pandemic behaviours, with more consumers returning to offices and also high street footfall on the rise as well. And this shift back towards the city centre is something that Lumina expects to be felt more strongly throughout 2024. So moving on now to look at how consumers purchase their coffee. So 93% actually order and purchase at the venue, and this is up 1.1 percentage point year on year. And a trend that we're seeing across the whole out-of-home market is growth in demand for experiences. So 59% of those who do buy coffee are very experience-led. And again, this is something that we've seen grow in importance year on year. So that's really prompting that in-venue consumption. And as a result, it means that we're seeing stores respond to this and becoming more experiential. So coffee shops are transforming from simply being caffeine stops to more vibrant hubs for the community, but also social interaction. And we're really seeing that shift towards coffee shops as spaces for socializing, working, and enjoying that unique coffee experience. And a great example that we're seeing is Coffee Island. So they have 2 sites across London, and the baristas are trained to interact with guests and guide anyone who wants to be trained on the secrets of correct brewing. They also have a low-height espresso bar, so it makes sure that the brewing process is really visible to guests. And it serves a great variety of coffees that are brewed with really sophisticated brewing methods, such as pour over, Chemex, and AeroPress. So it's really involving the consumer in the coffee experience and kind of tapping into those experiential needs. Now, another way that we're seeing operators respond to the experiential trend is through the different products offered. So Philippe Constantini Bakery in London, again, has gone viral on TikTok as it's known for its giant croissant. So it costs £25 and it's described as the perfect sharer between friends and family. And the bakery has also recently responded to the crookie trend, which is a combination of a cookie and a croissant, which started in Paris. So the operator is really successfully offering that experience when you get a good coffee, and it's a good way to drive footfall and offer consumers something that's unique, but also different as well, and really drive that kind of excitement and buzz around different products offered. And another exciting trend that we're seeing in the coffee world at the moment is cascara. So it's really good for both the environment and also coffee farmers, as it's more sustainable and also creates these new sources of revenue. So it's made from the fruit byproduct of coffee production and is then upcycled. And it's most commonly consumed as a herbal tea, with the best way to enjoy it steeping it in hot or cold water as that herbal infusion. So we know that consumers are looking for an experience when they're getting coffee, but another important driver of consumption that we're seeing in the market is loyalty cards. So vouchers, promotions, and loyalty cards were the top growing reason for choosing an establishment when a consumer bought a coffee year on year. And it's also the top promotion that was used, with usage again growing. So it's a really effective mechanism to try and retain customers and also encourage those occasions as well. And we're seeing lots of operators really dialing up their loyalty card marketing and also reward schemes to really get that consumer attention and drive visits. So Leon have recently introduced their £25 coffee subscription, and Pret have also amended their famous kind of Club Pret subscription to really respond to the times and tap into value and what consumers are looking for. So looking at the top 5 brands that coffee consumers purchase from. So Caffè Nero ranks 4th, and it's increased the most share year on year. And it's a brand where loyalty cards were increasingly used. So it really shows the effectiveness of such mechanisms. And Costa has also maintained its market leader position and has also seen growth in consumers visiting Greggs for their coffee. So moving on now to look at day parts where coffee is being consumed and also who consumers are having this occasion with. So drink only is obviously the most popular day part, and it accounts for over half of coffee occasions. But if we account for the growth of consumers purchasing 2 drinks and also having that occasion with friends and family, it really paints the picture that consumers are more likely to be socializing and having just a drink when they go for coffee. So they're moving away from purchasing both food and drink, especially around that kind of brunch day part, to really try and cut back, but make sure that they can still socialize in the most affordable way. And thinking about the type of coffee that consumers are buying. So hot coffee accounts for a majority of purchases, but we have seen an increase in the consumption of cold or iced coffee. So iced coffee is a trend that's obviously been around for a while, but the drink is driving growth as consumers start to move away from just Americano purchases. So again, this links to consumers wanting something more indulgent and experiential rather than these more simple and traditional coffee formats. And then moving on to look at the type of milk that's consumed in coffee. So interestingly, despite the growth of plant-based milk over the last few years, this year we have seen an increase in the use of dairy milk. But this is being driven by the return of that 65 plus consumers who are more likely to opt for the dairy option. So plant-based milk is also slightly more expensive. So consumers are switching to dairy as well to try and save money when the cost of living was felt the hardest. But the fact that consumers are more likely to opt for plant-based milk in cold or iced coffee really presents that opportunity for operators to capitalize on this growth of iced coffee to really push their plant-based milks. And we're seeing a lot of new product development in iced coffee, including plant-based milks, in marketing campaigns and also on posters outside of stores. So a great example is Starbucks, who launched their iced brown sugar oat shaken espresso. So the oat version has its own drink rather than oat milk being an option to add. So really capitalizing on the growth of this for iced drinks. And then having a deeper look at who the plant-based milk consumer is most likely to be. So the consumer skews younger, and they're more likely to be younger compared to dairy milk consumers. And they're also more likely to be female, affluent, and also have an out-of-home occasion alone. What's really interesting is that only 9.5% of consumers who do drink plant-based milk actually identify as non-dairy. So there's a huge opportunity to outline the benefits of plant-based milks to really compete with dairy companies and try and convert consumers. And then thinking about what plant-based consumers are looking for and how this differs to those who choose the dairy milk option. So plant-based milk occasions are more likely to be routine-based or driven by vouchers and promotions, with on-the-go missions and value the most important. So there's a real opportunity for ready-to-drink coffee cans here, which is a trend that's gained a lot of traction over the past few years. So there's an option for consumers to consume on the go and good value for money. Ties in really well to the fact that these consumers are more likely to be choosing those cold or iced coffees, which can be sold in those ready-to-drink formats. So we've covered who the coffee consumer is and how behaviour is changing. But now we're going to look at what's happened on operator menus, so looking at how they are responding to different trends in the market. And this is using our menu tracker tool for spring-summer 2023 versus spring-summer 2022. So we can really see the average number of non-alcoholic drinks. So we've covered who the coffee consumer is and how behaviour is changing. But now we're going to have a look at what's happening on operator menus and looking at how they are responding to trends in the market using our menu tracker tool. So looking at the average number of non-alcoholic drinks on coffee shop menus, this is now at 47. So we've seen an increase of 12% year on year. And this is driven by lattes, which are up 3 percentage points, and operators including Cafe Nero introducing new products. So they've recently launched a range of seasonal lattes, including the honey oat latte, which is available in both hot or cold options. So offering that latte with a unique twist can really offer something that's more treat-led and indulgent and tap into those missions and trends that we know are really important in the market at the moment. And then moving on to think specifically about food items on menus. So 8% of new items on coffee and sandwich shop menus were actually pizza in spring-summer last year. And we're seeing this translate on operator menus as well. So Costa Coffee has introduced 2 different flavors of pizza to its menu. So it has the caramelized red onion and mature cheddar pizza, and also the grilled pepper, mozzarella and pesto pizza. And another great example is Bad Moon Cafe. So they offer barista coffee, a large selection of locally brewed craft beers, as well as sandwiches, but they also have their wood-fired basilico pizzas as well. So really tapping into current trends that we're seeing in the market. And we're also seeing the average number of desserts grow on coffee shop menus. So the average number is now 44, and this is up 22% year on year. And it's really being driven by new and innovative flavour combinations in dessert ranges or menus that can really differentiate from other brands. And these new flavours are also tapping into experiential credentials, and they offer consumers products that they can't easily replicate at home. So we've seen Joe and the Juice introduce a cardamom bun, so it's differing from the classic cinnamon bun. And Harrison Hall has also introduced its new single origin affogato. So it's combining both coffee and desserts to really offer something different and more premium that's also more experience-led. Now, the fact consumers are increasingly wanting an experience means that we're seeing growth in customization, but also personalization in coffee and sandwich shops as well. So customizable menu options have grown 3 percentage points year on year, and it's a great way to really offer that more personal customer experience where occasions can be tailored to specific preferences and needs. So it can make the consumer really feel like they're part of something exclusive. And the inclusion of premium add-ons and also tiered price points can really provide operators with the opportunity to upsell. So this is a great way to drive trip spend whilst maintaining those strong value for money credentials. So the premium chocolate drink concept Noops offers consumers the chance to build their own indulgent beverage, with the brand creating that really personalized experience, which allows consumers to choose from 22 different cacao percentages, so it really appeals to a broad range of preferences. So moving on now to think about coffee trends in the market. So we've seen trends such as cold brew, nitro coffee, and coffee smoothies. But one trend that we're really seeing take off in the market at the moment is Vietnamese coffee. So it's made by pouring strong brewed coffee over ice and then sweetening it with condensed milk, which results in a blend of bold flavors and cool refreshment as well. So we're already seeing it in Vietnamese cafes and restaurants such as Tray in Soho. But we're also starting to see mainstream coffee shop operators really respond to this, and we can see it's been featured on Black Sheep Coffee's menu. So operators are also tapping into this trend, and it's a great way for them to charge a premium as it's more expensive than standard iced coffees. So it's a great way for operators to really differentiate themselves. And we're also seeing operators respond to demands for health. So coffee is no longer just a morning pick-me-up, and consumers are increasingly aware of the potential health benefits of coffee. Improving include cognitive function, but also the risk of certain diseases as well, which is really sparking the trend of these health-led coffees in the market. So operators are meeting current needs by introducing different functional but also adaptogen coffees to their menus. So again, Black Sheep Coffee is a great example that has a turmeric latte on its menu. And Clear Labs in Notting Hill introduced a matcha latte. So it's imported straight from Kyoto, and it's described on its Instagram as rich in antioxidants and also potent in anti-inflammatory properties. So these types of coffee are something that we expect to see increasingly appear on menus in future as the trend of health becomes more important. Now, the final trend that we're seeing is blue algae lattes. So again, this is linked to the growing demand for health, and it's rumoured to be the new matcha. So it's already taken off in Australia, and it's expected to be the next big trend in healthy coffee shop beverages. So packed with nutritional benefits, it's made from blue algae powder, ginger, lemon, coconut milk, and also agave. And there's no caffeine in this coffee house drink, but it has over 65 vitamins, enzymes, and minerals. So it really is that nutritional powerhouse. So menu expansion and new product development are really key to capping into the current trends in the coffee market at the moment. And it's definitely a really exciting time to see what new products will be introduced throughout 2024 and also over the next few years as well. So to summarize on the key messages from today, we're seeing older consumers return to the coffee market, and they've increased share to the greatest extent and also increased penetration as well. Routine on-the-go missions are returning, and consumers are looking to seek that experience at venues. And finally, coffee shop menus are expanding, and operators are really tapping into customization and health trends. So that's all from me today. Thank you for listening, and please do reach out to me if you have any questions.